I've already had to have one conversation about general etiquette in the comment section, but it seems that maybe I didn't express myself well enough. If you're unclear as to what we're doing here, I had spent well over 20 years believing Scott Peterson is guilty, and for all I know, he probably is. What I'm doing is I'm going back through the actual case files. So I'm not relying on documentaries and what Nancy Grace said to me. I'm actually going through the court documents, all of the photos, all of the testimony, what people swore to on the stand, and I'm determining for my own benefit. I'm not doing any of this to try and convince you of anything different. I'm going through all of this for my own benefit on my own TikTok page, on my own time, to discover if maybe there's something I missed. Is there holes in the prosecution case? If I were on a jury, would I find reasonable doubt? Clearly, that's very hard for some of you to grasp. Some of you feel like you've got to come in the comments and you got to yell at me every day and go, well, what about this? And what about this? Explain this. Just so you know, I don't have to explain fuck all to any of you. You can go make your own videos and you can go explain your own stuff. I'm here to go through the case documents. One person came in the comments and said, yeah, I love the way that you're only, exposing the holes. So you're agreeing that there's holes. That's the whole reason I'm here, lady. I'm sorry if that's too much for you. I'm going to ask you one more time. If you can't behave like a decent adult in the comment section, you don't belong there. If you put misinformation, your comment will be deleted. Post haste. I will waste zero time taking your comment out of there. This is an area where we're exploring some different things together. If it causes you stress to hear facts of this case that are wildly different than what you've believed for 20 years, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that hurts your feelings. I don't know what else to do. I'm discovering it all for the first time myself, and it's pretty tough. Do you know what? I about fell out of my chair when I found out that Scott, who was obsessed with Amber, only had 4 dates with her. That shocked the shit out of me. And there's more and more and more. Today, we're going to talk about circumstantial evidence versus physical evidence. You might want to move the hell on because this is going to be very hard for you. So I'm just asking you, have a little decorum, have a little class. If you can't have an open mind, please move on. Please move on. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now let's get down to business. Today, we're going to talk about circumstantial evidence versus physical evidence or direct evidence, because I also think that there's a lot of confusion about this, and you guys are all arguing over which is better or which is more accurate. So let's just start with some simple Google searches, right? What is the meaning of physical evidence? You see, this is a tangible object which can tie the defendant, the witness, or the victim to the crime scene, okay? That would be something tangible, like blood, sweat, fingerprints, clothing fibers, things that are actual physical evidence that could tie somebody to the crime scene. Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not, on its face, prove a fact in issue, but it gives a logical inference of the fact that the fact exists, right? And I'm going to get a good example for you here in a minute. So this is a great example of circumstantial evidence, right? They talk about this person, and you can pause to read this, but this is a great example of circumstantial evidence where when you add everything together, it might be pretty logical that this is the person who committed the crime. But it says here, does this prove the accused committed the crime beyond a reasonable doubt? That seems to be the part that we struggle with the most. And those of you who are saying that other people's doubt isn't reasonable because it doesn't agree with your level of doubt is messed up. Stop doing that, because everybody has different levels of doubt, and we all have the right to say what we think is reasonable. But when you look down here, it asks, does this prove, like, can circumstantial evidence, even this scenario here, does it prove they committed a crime beyond the reasonable doubt? And it says maybe, maybe not. Again, because it is specifically to that person. Some may find it convincing, others might not. That's the whole purpose of doing this, is because some people are convinced this amount of circumstantial evidence makes him guilty. Others do not. That's why we're doing this together. And then, of course, it says right here, which type of evidence is the most, and it is direct evidence because it needs no inference, right? The evidence itself is the proof. So let's talk about all the things that we know that kind of fall under this umbrella of circumstantial evidence. Scott had a mistress, right? We know that he told her his wife, that he'd lost his wife. We also know that there was a slew of really horrible lies and, situations that he put himself in with her that were just beyond ridiculous. We know that they were alleged to have financial problems, that his business was struggling. He made large purchases without apparently consulting with his wife first, like he bought a boat and he joined a golf club that cost $25,000 a year. So he was spending their money. He was also, selling her jewelry, selling her car, buying his car, selling cars, having multiple cell phones, dyeing his hair, fishing in a place where he said he was fishing, but where the bodies turned up. There is lie after lie and story after story, and just all of this combined, we can all attest to. There is nobody that disagrees that he's the most fucking deplorable guy we've come across in a long way, probably our lifetimes. He's hideous. Someone said in the comments, they said, can we all agree he's the second worst person ever? I'm wondering if they think the first worst is Schmittler. It's the only, it's pretty tough company, right? But that is Scott Peterson. He's fucking horrible. We can all agree. But at the end of the day, there's something we don't know. And it's something that the police never proved to us. They never proved to us how, when, and where Laci Peterson was murdered. And because they can't say that, then they can't tell us how, when, and where Scott Peterson murdered her. So despite all of that other horrible shit, and it is horrible, the reason we're all fighting in the comments is because the police left us with doubt. And I know that's hard for you to hear, but listen, if one person's saying, well, I think she was suffocated, and the other person's saying, well, I think that he drowned her in the pool, we're having that argument because the police failed to tell us which it is. The police never told us. They said, well, we think she died between this time and this time, and we think it was a soft kill, maybe this, or maybe this, or maybe this. We think he did this. We think it took place in the home. Some of you were saying maybe she drove to the marina with him and he drugged her and then dumped her into the marina alive. Anything's possible because the police never proved how, when, and where. Those are the three things that are missing. And if I'm on a jury, those are three really big things. I know he's an adulterer. I know he's a fucking liar. I know he is a garbage person who did an incredible amount of filthy, shitty things. But when I go through thousands of documents, I cannot find the place where the police tell me, they get up on the stand and say, this is how she died, this is where he did it, and this is when it happened. I'm going to do another video where I'm going to talk about physical evidence because someone did come into the comments and say, come to think of it, shouldn't there have been more physical evidence? And we were talking about, yeah, there should have been a whole heap of it. And I don't know if they weren't looking or if it didn't exist, but I'm going to do another video right after this one to talk about that. Come back.